on a chilly Lambeau Field, the true frozen tundra, it feels like tonight.
It's balmy. What are you talking about? Flip-flop weather.
Yeah,
I see my breath.
Ryan was running around like a chicken with his head cut off a minute ago because he couldn't find his hat, which should tell you exactly how it feels down here. Matt LaFleur said he wanted it cold and windy, and he got his wish. Packers did just defeat the Rams 36-25. Huge game in terms of playoff picture and that home field advantage. Just how much did tonight go towards helping the Packers see their offseason goal or their postseason goals?
First things first, they get a big win against another contender at this top-heavy NFC going into the bye, and that's huge because they got 2 weeks now until they're back out here against Chicago, and now they can rest up and feel good about themselves. And self-esteem is a positive thing. Everyone likes self-esteem. The Packers have that at 9-3, right? So that's first things first. Now, head-to-head tiebreaker, yes. that could come into play if they are in a tie at the end of the season with the Rams, which is possible. It is a top-heavy conference. And I think that the way that they did it, I mean, it wasn't always pretty. I mean, goodness, the punt returns, the field goal at the end, Shannon Sullivan tripping for a 79-yard touchdown. There was some issues, and yet it was really not all that close. I mean, they made Matthew Stafford look like he's still in Detroit. So to win easily, I mean, with ease, I don't know if I expected that.
We talked last week about how the Packers had not really played a complete game, all three phases of the game. Now, of course, special teams did, of course, have a couple of blunders tonight. But for the most part, and even Shannon Sullivan, I mean, yeah, it looked bad. But in an offense that has that much star power, you almost factor in that you're going to give one of those up, if that makes sense.
Well, it was one of those self-inflicted ones. I mean, those things happen. Guys fall down sometimes. So, you factor it in that way, I think.
Yeah. And I covered Van Jefferson in college. I've always said he is the most precise route runner I've ever seen. I'm sure some of that was him. He can lead a guy to do that. But other than that, this defense was really lights out. They did it up front. They did it on the back end. Who stood out to you most tonight on a night with Rashawn Gary being back?
Rashawn Gary's pretty good. Yeah. Dude's legit. That's 6.5 sacks this year. He literally ran through a holding penalty to sack and strip Matthew Stafford of the football. That was a really impressive. I mean, he's arrived. Rashawn Gary's there. Matt LaFleur talked about him as a premier pass rusher, and that's what he is now. The energy, the motor, the athleticism. When he first got here, he was a one-on-one star in practice. I mean, nobody can block him one-on-one, but it never really translated to 11-on-11. It took time, and now that's a right. You see that what he used to do in one-on-ones, the unblockable trait, he's got that in full 11-on-11. It's very impressive, and it's come a long way with it's been a really big deal with Zadarius Smith missing the season, basically, to have a premier guy like that. So he makes a huge difference on the field. I think Morgan Burnett, he's so solid on the back end. Kenny Clark had his first sack in 6 weeks and just kept dominating the line of scrimmage like he has. All levels of this Packers defense have been very impressive tonight.
I'm glad you mentioned the Gary sack through the hold. I think it was Levi here who mentioned that he's the real deal now, not just a talented guy. That's what you kind of saw on that play, because there's instinct and then there's moves, and that was a combination of both, right?
And then there's an ability to finish plays that young guys. It takes time. You can get yourself in position to make a play. And early this season, even Rashawn Gary had a lot of quarterback hurries and hits, but wasn't finishing. He's finishing now, and when you're finishing at that level, watch out. That's when you become a star. Rashawn Gary is trending toward that direction. He's got to keep going, but he might get to that level. He for anyone that doubted Brian Gutekunst using the 12th overall pick on Rashawn Gary, you're seeing why now.
Another guy that he got a lot of credit for bringing in tonight was Rasul Douglas, yet again coming up with a huge play. Aaron Rodgers said tonight, he said, how is this guy on the practice squad? Like, who didn't notice this kid? He's done nothing but make huge plays since he's been here. Did it again tonight with a pick six on Matthew Stafford. Some of them are lucky. He read that the entire way. He said that the coaches showed him that route on film, and as soon as Matthew Stafford went to throw it, he knew what was about to happen. it was picture perfect, right?
It was, perfect read. He looked like the intended receiver on the play, and it was
Cooper Kupp too.
He did, and that's the thing. It was against that guy. Cooper Kupp did not get in the end zone tonight. That was huge. Obviously, he's had multiple touchdowns in 4 games this season, none tonight. Rasul Douglas, look, this is twice now that he's made game-winning plays because, look, the game was over after the pick six. I mean, They had to get through the last 15 minutes, but they kind of just coasted again. It was never within single digits until 18 seconds to go. It was over at that point. So there's the pick six on Matthew Stafford. Now there's the interception in the end zone against A.J. Green and Kyler Murray in Arizona. Not bad for a guy on the practice squad still a few weeks ago. And it's like Aaron Rodgers said, how is this guy on the practice squad? Because he's got great instincts. He's got great ball skills. He's a stud. He's been a real revelation for this Packers secondary. And, the comparison that Aaron Rodgers made tonight to that 2010 team where you had guys who they added over the course of the season because they were discarded. They were kind of cast away by other teams. And they came here, found a home, and kind of really became key cogs to that run that they made to the Super Bowl. He said it's kind of similar to what's going on here, and Rasul Douglas is example A of that. And he said that after the game he was given a chance to speak to the team, and he thanked them for this becoming a home for him. And there's no question the Packers are happy that Rasul Douglas has made this his home because it's been a perfect fit so far.
Yeah, and on the other side of that, Aaron Jones was on the field tonight, but for the most part on a pitch count. I know Matt LaFleur wouldn't use those words for it, but he was. But A.J. Dillon stepped up, had the game tonight we thought he would have last week with Aaron Jones out. And at some points, I know his final stat line wasn't huge. I don't think he eclipsed 100 yards, but he just wouldn't go down. This seemed like a game where you could learn a lot about your team and you come away with it, have to be feeling good about A.J. Dillon.
Yeah, I wrote about it as a lunch pail game for him. He had 20 carries for 69 yards. He had 5 catches for 21 yards. Obviously, the 5-yard touchdown where he literally caught the ball on his back hip at the 5-yard line, had a linebacker, a 245-pound linebacker between him and the end zone, and ran through the linebacker. A lot of running backs, you don't see that. A.J. Dillon, he shook Troy Reader like he was a rag doll, basically. Really just, I mean, it was impressive. But you look at the numbers, like, okay, he's got 25 touches, not even 100 yards. Meh. It was so much more impressive than the box score indicates. I mean, he was the foundation to what they did, having that constant running threat. The fact that it's, he's reached the point now in a short yardage situation where if he's on the field, you see 28 in the backfield, everyone in the stadium knows who's getting the ball, and it does not matter because he'll plow into a pile of 3, 4, 5 defenders, and that pile will go backwards. It says something when everyone knows you're getting it, and they can't stop you anyway.
At one point, he had Aaron Donald on his back, and he just drug him with him. And I asked him tonight, was there a point where you realized they weren't going to bring you down? And he said, if I can stay up, even if it's a 1-yard gain, I'm not letting them get me to the ground because that provides a spark for everyone.
That's a tremendous quote, yeah.
Exactly. It was great. There were some sparks all over. Big game for Randall Cobb, even though he did go out hurt with a groin after halftime. Devontae Adams as well. As we said, one of the most complete games they played top to bottom, and one of the most balanced. I know they threw it like 45 times, which is high, but, I mean, top to bottom, do you feel like this is a game where they can really build off of and say, hey, you know what, we actually can win any way we need to?
I think it's like Rasul Douglas said, they haven't played their best game yet, and that's kind of remarkable. And Rasul Douglas made it very clear what it might look like when they do, and he said it'll be scary because they won this game against one of the best teams in the conference. I mean, a team that, with Matthew Stafford at quarterback, all that arm talent, joining that defense and the playmakers, and I know it was garbage time, but OBJ showed up and he kind of popped in the box score a little bit. Going into the season, this Rams team was a Super Bowl favorite. It was a Super Bowl contender. They didn't surprise anyone this year. It's one of the best teams in the conference, and they won with relative ease. It was not they were up double digits most of the second half, and yet they gave up 2 touchdowns on coverage breakdowns. They gave up the muffed punt when Amari Rodgers on the first punt return slipped inside the 10-yard line, which is a scary way to live. So Matt LaFleur sends Randall Cobb out, which we should say Randall Cobb left with a groin injury. No update on him, but was having one of his best games, except for he's sitting out there because he's the safer option to field a punt forget the yardage, right? Just field the punt, and he doesn't field the punt. So they've got some real issues in the return game. It's not a flawless effort, and yet they won it somewhat not effortlessly, but with ease. So it's pretty impressive.
And in an 11-point game, they got 9 points out of Mason Crosby. That's not something they've been able to depend on the past few weeks. How big was he tonight?
Well, he was good until the end. First and foremost, Mason Crosby was there to finally win a coin toss. It's been a minute. They'd lost 7 straight coin tosses, which I might be the only one enamored with that stat, but that drought was really hilarious while it lasted. They kept sending Mason Crosby out every week for the coin toss. He kept losing whether he called it or not. At home, you don't call it. It didn't matter. He lost against Washington. He lost against Seattle. He was there for all these defeats. They finally won a coin toss. So that started the night really well for him. And then he was 3 for 3 on field goals, and some of those were chip shots, but let's face it, chip shots have not been chip shots. They've been adventurous for him. And then he doinks the 42-yarder. So you can't discount that. I mean, it's 3 for 4, and he doinked a 42-yarder. That doesn't start him at square one, but it's the 4th straight game in which they missed a field goal. That's an issue.
But on the right side of the stat, at least this time, he made more than he missed.
4 straight games they missed a field goal.
Okay.
That's a problem.
Fair enough. A lot of people have asked about, but it's okay. So someone's asking if Yosh is a future starter. It's one game, but what do you think?
He's, if you rank the left tackles in this league, I'm not sure there's 32 left tackles that are better than Yosh Nijman. He's played really well, and he did it tonight against Von Miller, right? So, and I've got to see the film to see just, how much help there was, but I didn't. And Aaron Rodgers said this after the game. He said, I completely forgot about the left side of the offensive line, and that's a really big compliment. I didn't even remember that Yosh Nijman was on the field until he recovered Marcedes Lewis's fumble. And it was, kind of Johnny on the spot. It was 73 that came up with the ball. I'm like, oh, yeah, Yosh Nijman's playing. I forgot because he was fine. So let's put it this way. Yosh Nijman's the best third-string left tackle in the NFL. Like, they don't make third-string left tackles like Yosh Nijman. The Packers have been really – and it's interesting, Kassidy, because the last few years – the Packers have not historically in the recent past had a lot of depth, a wealth of depth at tackle. This has not been a position where they've been all that deep, and they really are now. And it's kind of remarkable that they've gotten to this place because they don't have third-string left tackles like Yosh Nijman in this league.
It's a good place to be deep at.
It is.
Last thing before we head out, a lot of people have asked about Aaron Rodgers' surgery. We don't know if he will have it or not. He said he's going to talk to the doctors. He made clear to Aaron Andrews on Postgame and then to us as well. Even if he does, he'll be back. He's got a bye week. Are you concerned at all about the fact that he might have surgery on that pinky toe?
No.
He outran Jalen Ramsey for a touchdown, so clearly he can.
A little pump fake there, a little savvy, little savvy pump fake.
Said, luckily, Jalen fell for the pump fake.
Right. Which you've seen that before. And our colleague Pete Doherty, who covered Brett Favre, was like that's Favrean right there. Late in his career, Favre would have that pump fake, and defenders would fall for it every time. It's uncanny how they do that. So,
can't help themselves.
He's played 6 halves since returning from his COVID-19 absence, and the first 3 were pretty bad. I mean, especially by his standards, but there's clear rust. He was 10 of 11 for like almost 200 yards and 3 touchdowns the second half against Minnesota, and tonight he's right around 100 passer rating. On that broken toe. The last 3 halves, he's been Aaron Rodgers, and I think it's pretty clear that even with the toe, he's shaking the rust. And there was absolutely rust. The guy practiced once in 27 days. There was absolute rust there, and he's shaking at this point, and he's got a bye now, and he can rest up. And like he said, healing's the number one thing for him over the next week. Whether he gets the surgery or not, it's something he'll be back, and they'll go based on how the toe looks and what the best move is for him for the rest of the season.
Well, no matter what happens, we'll be there to cover it for you all. Hey, guys, it's a bye week. Ryan, it's a bye week. It has been 12 long weeks.
Thank you.
I'm
here for that.
As A.J. Dillon said, that's like playing a college football season with no bye. Everybody deserves a break. You all deserve a break as well. Go spend some time with your family. The Packers will be here when you get back. We'll be there to cover it for you through it all. We'll have some special stuff for you this bye week as well. Stay tuned to PackersNews.com for full coverage as the Packers head into their bye week and then get ready for,
Chicago.
Chicago. Thank you. Woo!